Editing dark and moody images in Lightroom is a really popular technique, and we're going to look at a method of creating these kinds of images in Lightroom using a technique that you can apply to an image that has already been processed, like this one here, or you can just start with a completely unprocessed image and work from there. But the reason I want to start with a properly processed image is just so that you can see the dramatic transformation that can take place using the method that we're going to look at now. So the first thing that we need to do is drop the exposure down by 2 stops. And if you've ever heard of a technique known as exposing to the right, this is where you expose your images as close to the right side of the histogram as possible, but without blowing your highlights. It's always best to start with a brighter image rather than shooting a darker one on purpose. So we've got a perfectly exposed shot here, and then we just drop it down 2 stops and you've just got much better quality overall. So the next thing that we need to do is give the whites a really big boost. So I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and drag it over to the right until I start seeing where the clipping is, but that's a bit too high. So I'm going to go for, I think, an amount of 72 or 73 is about right. So we have an awful lot of contrast here because of what I've just done with the whites. So where I have the tone curve set to medium contrast, I'm just going to set that back to linear and knock out that addition of contrast. And you can see that we've immediately improved the image and recovered some of that detail, even though the shot still remains really nice and dark. Okay, so next up we need to work with the saturation. So we just need to go down to the HSL color controls and just take all of these sliders individually and drag them over to the left. And you'll see once we get down to the blues and aquas, there's barely any of these 4 colors in the image. So what we're going to do here is work with the red, orange, yellow and green. So I'm just going to slowly bring back small amounts of color into the image. So I'm going to take the red over to the right. So let's take it to +30. You'll see we're just getting a little bit of red in the bracken here, but most of the color of that bracken is actually going to be in the oranges. So let's bring this over to the right and then let's go for an amount of 49. See, that looks really good. We're getting a really nice kind of auburn color in the bracken there now. So yellow, again, that's going to bring a lot of color back in. So let's just slowly bring that over to the right until things look good. And I think about there is looking perfect. So we're just getting some of that golden light back into the background, but not too much of it. And then finally, I just want to bring some of the green back. So you'll see we're just getting a little bit of green dotted around here and there. So I would just like it to be really quite subtle. So let's go for -70 there. So things so far are looking really good, but what we can do here is just add a tiny amount of color grading. And I'm just going to go for the most basic color grading that always works. So in the shadows, I'm just going to click on there and I'm going to add some cyan to the shadow areas. So I don't really have to take that very far at all. So just a tiny amount over. So I was just holding down the shift key there. Once I'd found the hue that I wanted, holding down the shift key locked the hue, and then I could just work with the amount of saturation that was being added there. So we need to add the complementary color, which is going to be an orange. So let's just find it's kind of a reddy orange. So we'll go for something about there, hold down shift, and then we really do not need to add much at all to make a difference. Don't want to make it too strong. So let's go for about there. And then I'm just going to use this slider here just to dull off and darken the highlights slightly. So everything's looking really good now. So we can just add a few gradients using the masking tools just to reveal detail and just to darken things off where we need to. So I'm just going to click on the masking tools there. I have a mask in place that I used earlier on with the editing of the kind of standard version of the image. But what I'm going to do here is just lighten up the foreground slightly with a linear gradient. So I'm just going to pull that up there and then drag it over to +25. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the left-hand side over here. just to reveal some of that detail. And with this one, as you can see, we have the radial filter, which is going to fit that space perfectly. And once again, I'm just going to take it up to +25 because I don't want to lighten things too much. And then just to create a sense of enclosure, I'm just going to create another linear gradient and just darken off the top of the image ever so slightly. So let's just drag a very small one down there and then just bring that down to about -21. And I'm just going to adjust that guide there. And there we have our dark and moody image. So if we just look at the before, so this is the original raw file without any processing whatsoever. And then after the basic processing to get it looking just right as a normal image, we've then really mooded it up to get that lovely dark and moody effect.